gentlemen, Sir Chair. My name is Samantha Tulloch and I'm going to begin the case for the proposition, for the motion, by defining the motion and also discussing the social and democratic well-being of an independent country for the Scottish population. While my colleague, Diamond King, will discuss the economic and employment benefits for the Scottish population should a yes vote be achieved. But first, to the motion. By independence, we mean Scotland as a separate state from the United Kingdom after the referendum, which, as you all know, takes place on September the 18th, 2014. By beneficial, we mean that the social, democratic and economic well-being of the Scottish people will improve in the 11 years from the referendum between 2004 and 2025. And by majority of Scots, we mean a substantial amount of the population, across different age ranges, social classes and from different geographical locations across the country. On to my first point, which is that an independent Scotland will be much more able to produce general election results that better represent the views of the Scottish people. In Scotland, an electoral deficit exists where the electorate majority overwhelmingly vote for centre-left parties at general election, but can end up with a centre-right government such as the Conservatives, due to the voting pattern of the rest of the UK, predominantly that of South East England. This means that Scottish votes can hold little or no influence on the outcomes of elections due to the fact we only hold 59 out of the UK total of 650 seats. For example, in the 2010 general election, Labour won 41 out of the 59 seats and received over 1 million votes. But a Conservative and Liberal Democrat coalition was formed, even though the Conservatives only have 1 seat in Scotland and 84% of the Scottish voters had voted for centre-left parties. Compare this to the 2011 Scottish Parliament elections, where 114 of the 129 seats were won by centre-left parties. This is proof that come election time, a strong, independent Scotland will be more able to represent the views of its people much more effectively than Westminster Parliament ever could, thus showing that, democratically speaking, an independent Scotland will benefit the majority of Scots. Now, to my second point, which is that an independent Scotland can provide its own solutions to its own problems. For example, it is very clear that each individual nation in the UK is facing different problems as we move through the 21st century. Scotland has a range of these problems, ranging from health issues such as obesity to injustice and poverty and inequality. However, independence would give a platform for us so we could tackle these problems and consider our own solutions. We cannot currently do this when most of our monetary and welfare policies lie within a distant Westminster government that is ever increasingly catering to the needs of Londoners, rather than the Scottish people who this debate is concerned about. Scotland needs to control its own future so we can streamline our budget to suit our needs and collectively set out to eradicate the social and economic problems blighting our nation. It has also become increasingly more apparent that Scottish people believe that the Scottish Government is best at making decisions for Scotland. Let me continue this further by saying 64% of Scots feel the Scottish Government makes better decisions for Scotland compared to the 24% that feel like Westminster is acting better in our interests. This shows that the Scottish Parliament overwhelmingly believe that Holyrood is best at representing them and protecting their interests. And this is a clear indication that Holyrood could and should have full autonomy over legislation and budgets. Independence would also guarantee this autonomy and would allow for a much better system, as the Scottish people would have their interests put first rather than subsidised by the English, Welsh and Northern Ireland issues. So this shows that, socially speaking, Scotland would be better off independent in 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, what have I shown you tonight? I have shown you that having full autonomy in Scotland will be beneficial, as it allows Scots to make their own decisions about their own issues, and it also allows us to produce much more general election results that are more representative of the views of the Scottish people. And why, ladies and gentlemen, Scotland will be better off, socially and democratically speaking. With these in mind, and for the well-being of the Scottish people, I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, shall be arguing that Scotland and its people will not benefit by the year 2025 by a vote for independence. And one of the arguments for independence, of course, is that it should put power over Scotland into a Scottish government rather than a Westminster Parliament. However, the fact is that Scots are already in charge of their own education, their health, their social services, their housing, their law, and their tourism, which seems like a pretty good situation to me. Brits are currently in charge over defence, economy and foreign policy, which is better suited to being decided by a British government, because as regards to defence, a larger army will be able to protect the country better, and any part of the country, including Scotland, better than a small Scottish army could. With regards to economy, having a larger economy could have the power to bail out the country or any businesses should another recession occur. And with foreign policy, we'll be able to bargain more effectively in organisations such as the UN.
Point of information, please. You talked about defence and foreign policy and how Scotland would be protected by a larger army that stayed in the Union. But surely that's one of the reasons why we should become independent, because that army is being used for things like Iraq, which the Scottish people did not want, and that's not furthering our view of the world and our own foreign policy.
Well, I would argue that it's better to have a large army, have that decided by a very large country of many millions, and have their views reflected rather than just have the views of a very small country, Scotland, reflected. And I would like to point out that the Defence Secretary, Philip Hammond, has stated that any Scottish regiments will remain part of the British Army should independence occur. Therefore, an independent Scotland would either have an extremely small or no army whatsoever. So should worse come to worse, it wouldn't be able to protect itself. With regards to putting power into the Scottish people, the three major parties have all promised increased devolution should Scotland vote no, so there's no need to risk instability economically for slightly more power, which is already guaranteed. Also, the UK economy is recovering at one of the fastest rates in Europe, so it'd be madness to jump ship at such a crucial
point of information. You say it's growing massively, and I would agree with that, but surely it's growing in the direction that we don't want. Scotland wants a more social democratic economy, where at the moment we're seeing a much more globalised, capitalised economy, which is London, but does not suit the needs of Scottish people.
Well, I think that globalisation will benefit the whole of the UK more than a left-wing, socially liberal one will. We've seen with the Labour government from the late 90s that managing the economy seems to be a problem for the left side, and so a Conservative government in charge of the UK is doing a very good job of managing the economy. I think they should continue to do that, seeing as we're going in such a positive direction at the moment. Another point which I'd like to make is that the leader of the SNP party, Alex Salmond, has made many promises to his people that he has no control over, such as keeping the pound, joining the EU, which not both of them can happen, since current laws state that anyone wanting to join the EU will have to take the euro. And he's also stated that no businesses will leave Scotland because of independence. However, the fact is that many businesses already have left. What's more, the uncertainty over currency, taxes and laws would actually generate even more capital flight, and many people would be left redundant or be forced to leave the country. Therefore, by 2025, we could have a country with less opportunities for young people looking for work, and that clearly is no benefit to the country. I would also like to talk about power within the world stage. An independent Scotland would have no veto in the EU, and possibly even no place in the EU, we don't know. And it would have certainly no place in the Security Council in the UN. This could lead to legislation within the UN that does not benefit Scots as much as it would were the UK reflecting the views of Scots as part of the Security Council. Right, so overall, I think I've shown that it's clear that little political power will be gained from an independence vote, and economic instability will be infused into the country. Therefore, independence will not lead to a benefit for the majority of Scots by the year 2025. Thank you.
Sir Chair, ladies and gentlemen, fellow speakers, I'm here tonight to propose the motion and continue the case for side proposition. My colleague Samantha Tulloch has already discussed the fact that Scotland is suffering from an electoral deficit, which we believe is wholly undemocratic and unrepresentative of the people of Scotland. Also, she stated that only a strong, independent Scottish Parliament will be able to provide Scottish solutions to Scottish problems, something that we believe will benefit a wide range of Scottish citizens. Also on the proposition tonight is Daniel Pearson, who will summarise our lengthy case and act as our closing speaker. However, I will discuss how beneficial it would be for Scots that we have full autonomy over fiscal policy and have the economic levers of power at our disposal. First of all, I will attack some of the arguments made by the first opposition. He took great pleasure in quoting Alex Salmond in this debate, and I would just remind him that side proposition are not here tonight to act as SNP representatives. We are here to offer the viewpoint that independence would benefit ordinary Scots, and we are not here as representatives of a political party. Secondly, he said that he would agree with the Conservative government on their economic viewpoint, and that the capitalised economy of London is something quite admirable and is driving growth. Well, that's a total disregard to the majority of Scots who want a socially democratic, left-wing economy that suits their needs, and their needs are not always the ones that suit London. So I would say that that's disrespectful to the Scottish population as a whole, and we believe independence will allow that to take place. Yes.
You said that the economy was turning more right-wing as Conservatives, but how do we grow an economy better than no economy at all, or a falling economy?
Again, that's a total disregard for the views of Scots. The views of Scots is that we should have a centre-left economy, not a centre-right one. And if you're going to disregard the views of Scots, then surely that is the one point that's against democracy and it's against the things that Scots want. And we are here tonight to say, well, the majority of Scots would want a centre-left economy, and at the moment they would be guaranteed that in an independent Scotland. So on to my first point, it would be extremely beneficial for Scotland to have fiscal autonomy. No, thank you. So our economic policy can be more representative of the views of Scots. In recent years, it's been very clear that Scotland has been committed to a much different economic route than that of the type currently being proposed by the Conservative Westminster Government. While Scotland has a firm commitment to our deeply valued public services and a mixed economy, over the past few decades we've had to put up with Thatcherism, Blatcherism, and now seemingly Thatcherism again. We on the proposition believe that Westminster has undergone an unhealthy London-centric transformation designed to please city bankers and home county fat cats without taking into consideration the beliefs of those in the further reaching parts of this island. One issue I will touch on here is pensions, something that Gordon Brown does like to talk about. Independence would allow Scots to have a chance, for the first time, to reject the poor stewardship that has characterised the UK government's management of the pension system over many years, and to establish pensions squarely as a Scottish responsibility. And I believe this is right. It would take the power of pensions down to the Scottish Parliament, localising democracy, and I see full benefit in that. This would benefit the majority of pensioners in Scotland, as we'd be able to have a system built on their needs. It would also protect the younger generation from Westminster governments that are continually interfering with things like the retirement age, and it would give our politicians in the Scottish Parliament the opportunity to reconsider the existing pensions policy. So that's been stated two groups that would benefit from independent Scotland. I don't remember the opposition stating any groups that would benefit from staying part of the Union. We in the proposition are not saying that by 2025 we will live in a totally different nirvana. Rather, we believe that localising these important powers from a distant Westminster government to the representative Scottish Parliament will provide us with our own economic levers of power and make our economics suit the needs of the Scottish people. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've shown you why Scotland needs its own economic levers of power. Now, my second point, I will describe the benefits of doing this and having the ability to harness our own natural resources. In an independent Scotland, the Scottish people will have the opportunity to participate in a dynamic and diverse jobs market, and I will explain why I'm making that statement just now. This cannot happen in a union where London absorbs investment, absorbs resources from the rest of the island. We need to grasp our own economic levers of power, especially at a time when 1 in 5 young Scots are unemployed. Surely the economy is growing, we should have more young people in employment, so why are they being totally failed by the Westminster system? And what makes this more shocking is that Scotland is an energy-rich and economically rich nation. Scotland is the renewable energy capital of Europe and has a potential capacity of 62.63 gigawatts. We currently only grab 2.8 gigawatts of this with the so-called funds from Westminster. Imagine the investment we will attract if we will have full autonomy over our energy policy and abandon the pooling of resources with the rest of the UK. Something the Better Together campaign says is a good thing, I say it's a bad thing. It detracts funds, it stops investments, it doesn't allow us to build up an industry that can provide jobs for our young people and other groups that will benefit if Scotland becomes independent. It will provide jobs for unemployed people, another thing that people will benefit in Scotland. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the proposition has shown you that the majority of Scotland is socially, economically and electorally advantaged by 2025 if independence were to happen. So for the reasons we have stated in our lengthy case, I urge you to support the motion. Thank you.
Judges, ladies and gentlemen, listeners. Initially, before I go on to my speech, I'd like to address how fellow speaker over here kept on harking on about how what Scottish people want is important. And although it is important, if we talk about it economically, it is irrelevant to the proposition which is centred around benefit for a majority. What we want does not necessarily result in a benefit, it just results in a direction change. Now on to my speech. RBS, Tesco Bank, Lloyds, and Standard Life. What do all these names represent? They represent money, jobs, and economic growth, something an independent Scotland will not have. The capital flight that will occur with Tesco Bank and Standard Life promising to leave Scotland in the event of independence cannot be denied by proponents of independence and will not be dismissed by promising and hoping it won't happen. After all, for the companies, it makes perfect sense. With the uncertainty over currency...
Point of information?
No. With the uncertainty over currency or free trade due to doubts over the pound and EU membership, it could end up hemorrhaging money to currency exchange and cross-border taxes, as 65% of Scottish trade is done with the rest of the UK. Now let us look at the bigger picture. With large companies fleeing Scotland, smaller companies will follow, as the large are leaders of their sectors. The Scottish economy will stagnate with businesses leaving. And in 10 years down the line, as we look in the dawn of 2025, the bright, the make our country great, will have left to pursue safer futures in economically healthy countries.
Point of information, Scotland actually supplies England with the majority of its resources. Scotland could easily pool these resources and forge new trade links with countries such as China, such as, I don't know, Beijing, that's in China. But
As I said, this would still suffer from the same problems of no currency union, therefore we'd have to pay, or the businesses would have to cover currency rate exchanges, or currency exchange rates. Thank you. This, in turn, for bright people leaving, will cause less economic progress to be made in our society, and with less economic progress comes less tax revenues. The welfare services that we pride ourselves on as a country will be no more. They will be ruined, and the people will perceive this as a hardening of life. Those claiming our future is secure through comparison to petrol economies such as Norway are ignoring the facts. With Scotland having a quarter of Norway's reserves and lesser pumping rates, the safe future Norway has is uncomparable to the risk-infested future Scotland will have to endure. Yeah, let's hold on for a second. The crux of the Scottish independence debate is that we will have a safe future with oil and gas, as it would be the single largest sector of an independent Scotland at 15% of our GDP. And with progress being made in leaps and bounds in renewable energy, for all we know, the world will be a hydrogen economy in 5, let alone 10 years, and thus Scotland's value lies in it. Aside from the volatile and risky nature of oil and gas prices, the planned policy of borrowing to power change after independence that has been selected is sure to bring further economic instability, considering Scotland's projected drop in credit rating to BBB. This is due to Scotland, as an independent country, do not have a borrowing past.
Point of information. You've stated a lot of statistics and economic policies there, but what you've not said is who will benefit in Scotland from staying in the Union. Whatever the policies may be of future political parties in Scotland, who will benefit from staying in the Union?
I will address that later in my speech. As I was saying, aside from the volatile and risky nature of oil and gas and Scotland's drop in credit rating, the Scotland drop in credit rating will result in unneeded debt, and this is going to struggle or make it a difficulty to improve our economic situation. As the Institute for Fiscal Studies, an independent body, predicts rises in taxes and cuts in spending as Scotland wants to independently balance its books, we can all see that there is no advantage to leaving the UK. By 2025, it seems clearly more than likely that Scotland's economy, if it goes independent, will be in ruins, and thus its people's lives. Hardly how I define a benefit. Thank you.
Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, fellow speakers, I am here tonight to propose the motion and finish the case of the proposition. My colleagues, Samantha Tulloch and Daniel King, have already outlined the social, democratic and economic reasons why it would be beneficial for Scots to live in an independent country. I will summarise the debate as a whole by identifying the main points of clash and reflecting on the arguments made by the proposition. Also, I will attack some of the absurd arguments made by the opposition so far and show you, ladies and gentlemen, that the case of the proposition is exactly why you should support the motion. So, main areas of clash. The first one I identified was the economy and currency. Both sides talked a lot about that. Also, the electoral deficit and power. The electoral deficit is second, power and others are third. Okay. First, main area of clash of economy and currency. Like my colleague Daniel King said, England and Scotland have always chosen very different economic routes in recent years, and this has led to Westminster being very unrepresentative of the views of Scotland. I would like to remind the debate that we are not here to represent the views of banks. We are here to represent the views of Scots who have seized the opportunity to choose what they want to do with their economy.
Point of information.
Thank you. Who have chosen what to do with their economy. Yeah, that's all I can really say. The second area of clash I identified was the electoral deficit. There is tremendous amounts of electoral deficit in Scotland, like my colleague Samantha said quite a lot in her speech. There has not been a government voted in by Scotland for over 30 years. Well, I say voted by Scotland, the majority of Scotlanders have supported for over 30 years. Scotland is quite a small country with a small population but with very specific needs. An independent Scotland will be able to attend to these needs in a way that Westminster never can, simply because there's the 56 million in the UK as opposed to 5 million in Scotland. Third point of clash that I identified was the power and oil. An independent Scotland has a lot of opportunity to sell its energy, to sell its power, and although the oil resources are depleting, there is a lot of opportunity for renewable energy, for wind turbine wave power. By 2025, it would be so far to say that an independent Scotland could be the renewable energy capital of the world.
Information. What do you base this observation on?
Well, I base this observation on the fact that we have lots of big hills that you can put lots of big wind turbines on. We have lots of wind that you can, waves crash with the wind. We have lots of, well, not that much sun, but the solar panels still do work sometimes. And because Scotland has so much space for all this, there's only, I think, 8 people per square kilometre. There'd be room to make, a lot of funds from this. Right. So now to report some of the points that the opposition made in their speeches. Like I was just saying. Mike was just saying you talked about the power, like political power, that Scotland wouldn't have. Independence isn't really about the power, it's about forging a smaller government to suit the needs of a smaller, more specific, independent Scotland that needs, basically a nanny to take care of it. Westminster's not really a nanny, Westminster's more of a school teacher who beats you. So, to conclude. In conclusion, the proposition has shown you tonight that independence will be of great advantage to the majority of Scots. Not only can we choose our own economy, we can forge our own trade links, like I said in the point of information, with new countries like China. we can basically excel. But the bottom line is it will allow Scotland to make its own decisions to strive and tackle our own problems. In the 21st century, Scotland hasn't really had a chance to do this. We have devolved to a smaller government, but we've not had the chance to really solve our own problems to help our own people. Independence would guarantee us fiscal autonomy, allowing Scots to have full control over their future, and we will have much more representative in charge of our economic and employment policy. For the reasons I've stated in our lengthy case, I urge you to support the motion.
A year of prosperous industry, perfect exam results, and, to quote the Yes Scotland website, the people will be sovereign. And all because Scotland is now independent. Well, unless you've been sleeping through this debate, you've probably realised that my team and I don't exactly believe with these statements. Before I continue with my arguments against the motion, though, I would like to talk about the main points of clash in this debate. The proposition said that better elections results will occur if Scotland becomes independent, because Scotland has no power in the UK Parliament. However, we already have our own government, which is already charged with health, tourism, law and education. The rest of the UK takes care of other things like the army, which is a large, safe army which will protect us. If Scotland becomes independent, our army will diminish, and so therefore we won't have as much protection. The proposition...
Information. You stated that the UK defence system in Scotland would diminish. However, the UK defence system at the moment has been known to force Scotland into illegal wars that we didn't want to be in.
Well, we are pulling our forces out of Afghanistan, and I think that having someone there to protect you is better than having no one to protect you at all. And if you don't want to go into a war, then you can just not go. Personally. No. The proposition also mentioned that who will benefit from staying in the Union? Those working in places such as Lloyd's, Standard Life and other companies leaving Scotland will benefit, as their workplaces will have less Scottish employees, as their headquarters have moved and won't need as much business in Scotland. Also, if everyone can harness their own wind and solar power, why would you buy it off a small country? This is unlike oil, which Scotland has, which will run out, but not everyone has that, so you buy it from Scotland. The proposition believes that an independent Scotland is a wealthier Scotland.
Point of information.
However, is that really true? As of 2013, the UK stood strongly as the 8th wealthiest country in the world, its GDP rising steadily at 7.5% since 2008. This means that by 2025, we in the United Kingdom could be sitting on a pretty $2.8 trillion. As my teammate said, do we really want to leave a country that is doing so well financially? Employment is up, unemployment is down. We've pulled ourselves... Thank you. We've pulled ourselves out of a recession faster than most. The referendum isn't just a quick decision we can make and unmake if we don't like the choices we've made. The UK can't help us out at times of trouble like they have so many times in the past. For example, when the Royal Bank of Scotland needed to be bailed out. At the click of our heels, or even by waving our tartan wand, if by 2025 we up here are dealing with unemployment and low pay, we can't look down south at those in England, and let's not forget Wales and Northern Ireland, and see their steadily rising employment rates and economy, and just jump back into the United Kingdom. Our economy is growing, no matter which political direction it's going in. Nonetheless, it is growing. But at least we won't have to worry about paying for our retirement holidays. With the independent Scotland's pension system, we can all look forward to our happy retirement. By 2025, the UK state pension age will be 68 for both men and women, but here we'll be receiving our retirement package at age 66. But just as we've settled down onto a nice big couch to watch Pointless, that is if we're allowed the BBC, that's it. Time's up. Why, didn't anyone tell you? The reason why we got our pensions at such an early age is because we won't have as much time to enjoy it as the rest of those in the UK, since our life expectancy is lower. I mean, come on, we'd all rather enjoy having our money than our life, wouldn't we? Who needs to spend time with their grandchildren, watching them grow up, being around to see our wonderful country grow flowers and trees, and to make snowmen in the winter, and burn our noses in the summer, and to be there the next century and tell everyone that I was there at the last one? Let's be honest, who wants any of that? But now I finish with my sarcasm, I can tell you clearly, me, I want that, and I'm sure you want that too. But in an independent Scotland, when given the choice of improving our health, or improving our pensions, our leaders chose money. What does this tell you about those who would run our country, our independent country? Are these people really choosing the best for us, for the people, or is it just Alex Salmond's solution to the ageing demographic in Scotland? I hope my team and I have persuaded you and shown you just why Scotland needs to stay within the United Kingdom, and why we will not be better off as an independent country by 2025. We beg you to oppose this motion.